Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
What's going on, guys?
Vegas.
Nothing Bobby gets more excited than going to Vegas, wearing a bucket hat, and watching a bunch of future firefighters play basketball.
I got a couple on me. Hold on. You want one, Noah? Hold on.
No, I don't.
Don't let me know how close you are. The illusion. Maintain the illusion. Both Noah and Bobby are in Vegas, carving out whatever space they can. As it's tight, it's packed. You've got a lot of teams there, a lot of media from a lot of different places, checking out some of the rookies and second-year players, and in the case of Jordan Walsh, third-year players. In the case of Kenneth Lofton, I don't know how long X year been around, but a lot to talk about and a fair amount to unpack from game one. Our first look at Celtics top draft pick Hugo Gonzalez. We also got to see their other two second-round picks as well, Amari Williams and Max Shulga. And a surprise, did we just find our first center, Bobby? Is it possible?
At least third center. At least.
Did we just find our first center? That's all possible as well. So, again, a lot to talk about and some not-so-great stuff to talk about with our boy and friend of the Garden Report, Baylor Shireman, with a less-than-stellar Summer League year 2 debut. We'll get into that as well. First off, we want to remind everybody that this show, as always, is powered by our friends over at Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Check it out right now. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Win up to 2,000 times your cash. Download the app, code CLNS. New users, you get 50 instantly when you play 5. Once again, download the app, code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Prize Picks run your game, and the Garden Report, as you all know, is a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe, turn on your notifications. If you're listening on audio, please give us a rating and review. It really helps kind of get us out there, let people know who we are. But those of you who are here, you guys really are real ones, okay? You're here and you're watching Celtics Summer League at 4:00 on a Friday in July. And that's what you do. And a lot of people have been kind of gearing up in the chat here. I don't even know what the headline off of this is. So I'll kind of spin the wheel and let you guys go in whichever direction you want. Maybe we'll start with Hugo. Our first look at the Celtics top draft pick, who shouldn't by any means be a guy who plays this year because he's 19 and he still needs to mature. And typically that's the type of player you stash, or you just, they ride the main shuttle, or they sit and they develop. But there might be a path to minutes based on, the roster and its needs, and the fact that he plays wing, and the fact that he can defend, and maybe can even defend at an NBA level sooner than later. So I don't know what else to say other than he comes almost exactly as advertised, guys.
Yeah, it's funny because there was such limited film on him that a lot of my research over the past few weeks was watching him from, his younger days, from talking to people. And he, again, as you said, John, like the first play of the game, he crashes the offensive glass, finishes with like a high energy putback, and then deflects on the other end. And he struggles from the free throw line, and he struggled a little bit around the basket, and he wasn't like an elite fully fleshed out scorer, but I thought he was exactly what we had expected. And that's a good thing because I've heard a lot of good things over the last few weeks. So that, to me, like there's a lot of potential there. His stat line doesn't look awesome. Like he was, I think, 4 for 12 from the game, but his overall game, I think, looked better than what the box score was. Like there were a lot of good decisions and good moments that just didn't necessarily translate. And also, I'll just say, this team won by 14 against the Grizzlies team that has several legit NBA players, Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, guys that have contributed at the highest level and achieved a lot already. Like Jalen Wells was one of the best rookies in the league last year. So the fact that he was kind of running the show in a lot of ways, and like the couple guys that did play a lot tonight, like they impacted winning, like more so than they showed that they have an all-star ceiling. So I liked the way that the team generally played together too.
Yeah, no doubt. Bobby?
Yeah, and you said we were watching the game together, Noah, and there was like 3 plays at the beginning that perfectly encapsulated him. Some of the shooting struggles early, and he turned that around by the end of the game. Turnover almost right away, and then just a frenetic defense that he played throughout this game. And there was a moment later where he just used his length and reached his arm in on a play that he wasn't even defending and got a block just by reaching out and getting his hand in position to block it. So he did some stuff in this game, and I was throwing the term at you during the game, though, a gadget player. I don't know, John, is that more of a football thing or a basketball thing? Because I do think
gadget player in football is typically someone who just does small specialized things, like you're using like a real quick, like a Marcus Jones type defensive back as a gadget player to bring them in special formations and have 5-6 plays for them a game. I don't know that you go, but he might be a specialist, like
I think of him in that way because I don't think he has a set out position yet. I know they threw him into the fire at point guard in this game, and he did all right. I thought most of the team did all right, despite them not having a prototypical point guard like J.D. Davison in this game. So the fact that they were so competent offensively across the board, and he did some decent stuff on the ball too in this game, I thought it still looks better off the ball to me at this point. It was a pleasant surprise because I think the last couple of summer leagues, I remember the first game just being ultra sloppy, no one looking like they were connected. And now that you have a team where there's some players who could feasibly be involved faster than we think or thought at one point, it's good to see that they're at least on the same page out of the gate here. And that's all you can really ask for from a lot of guys. I don't care about made shots. I don't care about mistakes. I like the fact that they're trying some different stuff here. And I think the big picture takeaway you have from this game, and Ugo was part of this, is they want to play faster. They want to play offense a little differently this year. And I think if we're talking about stuff, Noah, that matters for the Celtics, the Boston Celtics this year, that's stuff that they're trying to do offensively that's a little different than what they've done in the past. And Matt Reynolds talked about that yesterday. That is what I'm watching for here. How consistently can they play fast and in control? How much do they add and implement some cutting here? How much do they switch up their offensive approach? In this game, how many threes did they shoot out of the total? 28 out of 74. It's not as much as you normally see the Celtics shoot. So they were doing some different stuff here.
Yeah. I Bobby, you mentioned the pace. I think that's worth talking about. But again, I don't know how much translates. I don't know how much translates from what you're seeing in Summer League all the way into the regular season. But I do think that there's no secret that the Celtics want to play faster. Brad Stevens himself said it, talking specifically about the Knicks series and especially that game where they lost, where they just slowed to a crawl. I think that's as much to do with personnel as it is choice, right? You can choose to play fast, but if you don't have the people who want to play fast or are willing to play fast, that's not going to work for you. But if you're all of a sudden going to be forced to be a little bit younger and playing guys who might be less refined, you might have no choice in that. But yeah, it was interesting. I also wonder whether it's an NBA trend after seeing kind of what we saw in the finals here with teams playing a little bit deeper, and the idea of just pressing full court and wearing people down and using your depth to your advantage. If that's just a way that the NBA is now going, because you saw both teams doing it throughout the game, really pressuring the ball full court. Again, I don't know how much of that translates over into the regular season when you're playing with actual players versus, these journeymen, most of whom aren't going to be part of the teams that they're on right now. But it was interesting to see it for sure.
Yeah, and I think Matt Reynolds, the Celtics Summer League head coach, he stressed at practice that like what he's been really impressed by is how hard everybody's playing. It's one thing to say that, it's a nice thing to say, but he really like made a point of it that I actually was like, okay, I bet we're going to actually see that. Like, it's not just a talking point. And I do think that was kind of what I took away from this game. Like, everybody played really, really hard, and they had complete buy-in. And again, this is a team that's been together for a couple of days, so I don't know exactly what to make of it. But that is, if we're trying to draw like how the parent club is going to have to play, like they don't have the talent to fall back on anymore, right? The actual Boston Celtics. And so I think there's a lot of things they're going to have to draw from, of like that full court pressure, that pace. You look at the personnel you mentioned, John, like the personnel that's remaining on this roster are the guys that like playing fast, right? So I do think you're going to see that. I don't want to extrapolate too much because you're not going to have the same players. I also think they're trying out things that they're not necessarily going to do it with the Boston Celtics, but certainly I think like my mind was wandering there too, of like, okay, there's some flashes here that we're probably going to see in Boston.
Yeah. So sticking on Ugo before we move on here, and again, it has been tough to kind of figure out exactly what type of player he is. I'm not. This isn't a critique as much as I'm trying to figure out what it is that, like, the energy is unreal. The fact that he fights through screens the way that he does and he plays like a madman, like that stuff translates. That stuff can get you minutes almost on its own. But you can see it. You know, you said don't necessarily look at the stat line in any way here, not even the positive. That 3 of 5 3-point shooting, one of them was off the bank, and the shot looks a little bit janky. So again, that release, I think he's got to work on it a little bit. You know, people are talking about the free throws as well. That's not a great indicator. The shot requires a lot of refinement. I am curious. It's tough to extrapolate off of one game, but where do you see, and Bobby mentioned better off the ball than on. I mean, I don't think he did a terrible job, but you saw that turnover almost right off the bat there. And, you know, I'm curious if he's going to be able to even create himself. Like, do you think there's a path to him getting buckets in a particular way? Is it all about being, you know, maybe a 3-and-D type player? Like, what's the hope that he can turn into, whether it's a player comp or the style of player that you think that he can be? How's he going to get his buckets at the NBA level?
Oh, get his buckets. Interesting. I think he's almost a blank slate. Like, I think they can completely mold his game
totally
to what they want it to be. Because I don't think he has a particular role at this point in his career. I think he's been asked to do a little bit of everything, and I think this Summer League team is going to ask him to do a little bit of everything. I do probably shy away from saying he'd be a point guard just because of what they have at that position, the amount of players who control the ball this year, and especially beyond that when Tatum gets back. So I hope that they can utilize him, and I say gadget player just because I think of the Bruce Browns, I think of the, you know, Christian Browns, the guys that we've talked about that he might compare favorably to, and they're guys who cut, screen and roll, do a bunch of different stuff, push the ball in transition. They pretty much just find ways to get involved offensively, and especially for a guy who doesn't project to be a great shooter. No, like I don't want to rule that out because he's 19, but we haven't seen a ton of evidence from the little that we have seen from him playing so far that he has the upside of being a great shooter. I want to see them involve him in some creative ways this year if they're going to use him. And I didn't see a ton of cutting today. No, I don't know if you did. I didn't see them necessarily setting him up off the ball a ton in positions to be able to, you know, catch the ball and make some decisions on the move and stuff like that. A lot of the time he was just catching, shooting, spotting up, shooting, coming out of a screen, catching and shooting, and doing stuff that we've seen Celtics wings do. And he did a good job with it. But I freaked out a week or two ago on the show saying, don't put guys who are not going to shoot great in the corner and just have them play catch and shoot roles. I don't think that's going to work for Ugo, at least early in his career. I don't think that's his skill set. So I want to see them having him screening. I saw a little bit of that here today. I want to see them allowing him to cut. I don't give a damn that they didn't cut in the past. It's a different team now. It's different players. I think you start to change up your offense a little bit to suit the players that you're trying to get involved and develop. And let's be real, is this guy part of their core into the future? We have no idea, but he was your first round pick this year. So if you're high on him and you believe in him, adjust the offense a little bit to put him in a position to succeed. I don't want to see him just catching and shooting threes, Noah, this year. It's gonna kill me.
Bobby, you're mad already. Nobody said he's.
So why are you mad? I don't.
Yeah.
Why do you think that that's gonna happen?
Did
you see? Is it based off of what you saw today, or are you just worried because of past guys?
Past guys. I think that's what they did with Neesmith. I think that's what they did with Walsh. I think that's what they've done with every young player going back years now. And this is a time, and Stevens has said it, and Reynolds has said it over the last couple of days here, they can experiment, change some stuff up. It's going to be a different team this year. They don't have the shooting they've had in the past. They don't have the playmaking personnel that they've necessarily had in the past. Again, they have to do some stuff differently.
We're just doing snapshots here. You know, I don't think.
I'm not reacting to this game. I'm saying big picture.
I get you. I wasn't sure. I thought you were talking based off of today, but I understand what you're saying. Like, there is a pattern of, you can kind of figure what his role is going to be. And I just think everything that I know about the way this team has played is going to just be thrown out the window a little bit, though. Like, maybe I'm totally wrong, and they're actually going to try to play exactly how they were playing last year, just down 5 rotation players. But I would imagine that they're going to rehash a lot of what they've done in recent years.
And the pace is part of that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think they're going to be top 10 in pace next year. Like, they have to be. So maybe that's totally wrong. And the main things that they were struggling with will continue. But I think, John, to your point about, like, your question about how is he going to get his buckets, like, I think it's actually not what we saw today. I don't foresee that he's going to be a
so at all.
3 guy. He was 1 for 1 for 7 from inside the arc.
Slasher, cutter,
think that,
penetrator.
yeah,
maybe.
I think that's where
Yeah.
you're actually going to see him get more of his points. And it was Charles Bassey, who I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but he said, like, you know, you can't block him. Like, that finish that he has around the basket, it's like impossible to block. That's I think what you're going to see. He has that Euro step that we've seen in a couple of clips from practice. You didn't see that today, but I would imagine that is part of his scoring arsenal. And again, there are a lot of guys that come into the league that can't shoot consistently, like a Derek White, like a Grant Williams, that they have faith that's going to come around. I don't think they would have drafted him if they looked at a shot fundamentally and said, this is a guy that's not going to be able to turn that around. I think like similar to Jordan Walsh, where the 3-point shot is still an open question. And tonight, I'm sure we'll talk about Jordan, but tonight, Jordan Walsh, 3 for 6 from beyond the arc, thought that shot looked really good. But one of those guys is going to have to come around to break into the rotation. So that's why when we're forecasting, like, is it going to be Ugo? Is it going to be Baylor? Is it going to be Jordan? Like, it's not going to be all of them, but somebody is going to find a way to consistently score and put points on the board and be a threat and space the floor and do all those things, because the opportunity is very much there right now.
Yep. No doubt about it. You know, we could circle back to Ugo if we have more thoughts or more comments, but I think all in all, I think we're all kind of in agreement.
Real quick before we move off him.
Yeah.
We talked to him yesterday. We did an interview with him that's going to come out. Being around him for the first week or so here, it's impressive. He's an impressive guy. You can tell he's professional. You can tell he's been a professional for a long time. The, you know, English ability he has coming out of Spain is pretty impressive too. And just the way he carries himself. And you even saw in the cutaway interview, John, like, he didn't even want to talk on the sideline when they pulled him aside for an interview. He's like, you know, we're trying to play the game. There's no silliness from him from what I've seen. Like, he's pretty locked in here. Even we asked him what he did in Vegas the first night, and he was like getting ready to play. So I'm pretty impressed by both the IQ that he shows out there, because he did all the right things. I felt like Noah did the shot go in every time. Did he turn it over a little bit? Yes. But I feel like he put himself in good positions on the floor, and he just doesn't look 19 out there. Like, remember Walsh just playing a little frenetic, a little crazy coming in at 19? I don't see that from him. I don't feel like I don't feel like he's lost out there. And he did tell us after this game that it was really hard adjusting to the speed of the game and all of that, which I found interesting. But it didn't look that way to me, at least. I don't know how you felt, Noah.
Yeah, his demeanor really stands out to me. And like, obviously, like, you know, how you come off through the media is like a tiny portion of actually who you are and what you're going to be as a player. But he is so serious. And like, there was a moment post game where Jay King of The Athletic asked him about how he was shooting free throws during the halftime break because he was 1 for 5 from the line in the first half. And he was like, that's unacceptable, right? Do we have that clip? Oh, sorry. I thought you were pointing like we have the clip. Oh, the subscribe thing. Yes, subscribe. But yeah, so and he's had that since the moment that we met him at like a community event. Like, he just carries himself very seriously. You know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum energy, where it's like they're obviously, you know, 27 years old, so it's a little bit different, but he kind of talks like they do. He doesn't talk like a young guy, and I think he carries himself like that. And on the floor too, like, he did not have that really young energy. Like, he made a lot of mistakes, but I thought that generally speaking, like, he really does seem like a pro. Like, it's such a cliche thing to say at this point, because we all know that he was a professional basketball player last year, but it's night and day from the last couple of rookies, I think, just in that sense, where you can just see that he has been around all of this. He's been around the pro game and the older players and all of that.
Yeah, I agree with all of it. And you guys have the firsthand because you've spoken to him, but you could definitely, the makeup, you could definitely tell is there. And he does play with a confidence, doesn't look like he's overwhelmed. Doesn't mean that he's able to do whatever he wants to do out there, you know, far from it, but doesn't look like he's shying from the challenge. If somebody is in his way, he just goes harder. You know, if somebody's moving fast, he just tries to move faster. You know, I liked a lot of what he did today. I like that, you know, okay, he gets screened off, he's trailing, he doesn't give up, he's just chasing. And he's trying to get back into the play and make an impact, and I thought he did.
Those Euro step moves too are sick. Some of the stuff we've seen in the highlights that they've posted from the practices and all that, and like Noah said, Bassey was like, I tried to block him and I couldn't. That was a pretty funny answer from him, just being here days.
I'm definitely encouraged. Now, and again, this is a first round pick, you know, someone that maybe people didn't have on the radar. When you're, you know, jumping into second round picks, the expectations have to change a little bit. You're looking to see if you can get anything out of these guys. I think of the two players that are more, you know, that the Celtics picked in the second round, Amari Williams is a more intriguing option because he plays a position of need, and there's things that he does at a high level, including his passing, which people, you know, seem to like. And I know he threw one cross corner pass, you know, in this game to find somebody behind the 3-point line. And all in all, Yeah, all in all, he also looks like he's a comfortable guy out there. I didn't see him really look shook or rattled or the game moving too fast. I just don't know what his ceiling is. I don't think it's particularly high, but again, just give me your early impressions. I think there was quite a few things to like though. Your early impressions of what you got, what you liked out of Amari.
So the one thing I'll say, or I guess two things stand out. Him pushing in transition. You remember the Horford plays like that, John. You actually feel pretty good when he does it.
He's running.
Super comfortable.
Except for Horford, who turns it over every time he dribbles. But
I was gonna say, you didn't like when he did that.
Every time.
It's literally the only yeah, it's the only critical mistake that he constantly the Horford, I always say he makes no mistakes except for that. Like, what is that?
Should I dribble? I'm gonna do it this time. It's gonna be good this time. And it's always
it's the
a turnover or a foul.
So that was the number one thing that stood out. The number two, I just felt like he did something good with the ball every time he had it. And I said that to you at one point. No, I was like, I feel comfortable with him having the ball in his hand. So that's his NBA skill. I think you said that on your podcast, Noah, that you want someone to have a skill that's NBA level. And that's his ball control, his passing, his initiation in the offense. And when you look back at Kentucky, and I know Jack Simone did a lot of look at that, he was a pretty heavy facilitator in their offense, like almost a primary facilitator for that team rather than their guard. So it's a cool, unique thing. I know mentioned it to me, Travion Williams, a couple years ago. We got really excited about him for almost the exact same skill set. That guy was like 6'8", 6'9". This guy's more of a 7-footer. So he's got the size. He's massive. His wingspan's incredible. And I want to see how the other stuff rounds out. He had a couple blocks in this game. That was great. He put the ball in the basket around the rim. This isn't a post-up team, so I don't think a guy who's going to back down and play the post is necessarily a great fit in the offense. But you can see we were at practice yesterday, Noah. They were doing a lot of screening stuff with him. They were trying to get him rolling downhill, and I think they're trying to put him more in that position. So right now I look at him and say he's probably going to have to spend some time in Maine. They're going to have to mold his game to fit what they do offensively, because right now I feel like he's that traditional back down, post-up big, and that's not really how they play offense.
I'm not really worried about how they play offense. I'm looking for people that can do anything and everything. And you don't have to play one way. But yeah, I mean, if he was, a classic, if he was if he's a modern day big who can stretch the floor and hit jumpers and defend, he's a first round draft pick. So you get what you get at this point in the draft.
Right.
Can he be useful? Can he find his way into, minutes? Can he be your third center? We need a third center. We need one.
We need just one at this point.
Yeah.
And I think what Brad Stevens said earlier this week when we spoke to him, and when I asked him about what are you thinking about the centers, and he was like, we'll see. He said about Amari that there's a high upside there. Like, that was the thing that he said. He kind of had his thoughts in each of the potential options. And what I saw today is, I think, a guy that needs more time. Like, I need more time to watch him. First of all, I didn't make any grand impressions from watching him today. I think that there's some moments where I was like, you can tell when he has the ball, he's looking to make the right play. I feel like if we didn't see it play out the way that it probably would if I saw him, by the end of Summer League, I think we'll have more good moments like that. But I would anticipate, all the signs right now is that he's not a guy that they're going to throw in day one. I think he's going to be more of a main guy to start. But you can tell he's comfortable with the ball in his hand in a way that the average back to the basket big isn't, looking kind of across the court. So the passing skill set, how many assists did he have? I don't think a lot.
Williams?
It's not even on the thing. So one assist.
He had one assist. One assist.
The flashy one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think with him, that's a fun skill set. I love players who you don't think would be passers who are. But then I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What does that contribute? It's a nice skill set. I love it. But you have to be able to do some other stuff here, and I'm interested to see how his game rounds out. That's what they've said a lot of too right now. Matt and others have said, we got to see him screen, we got to see him rebound, we got to see him defend. I thought the defense was decent in this game. This is just a tough night for him because the guy behind him in the lineup stole the show at that position. So he did some good stuff here, but then Bassey comes in and just blows you away. I mean, can we get into him? Because this is
If you want to do Bassey real quick, let's get into Bassey, because I think Bassey's the main course tonight. I think there's going to be 3 headlines off of tonight, and we've only gotten to one. First, look at Ugo. I agree with Noah 100%. Amari is incomplete. I think Max Shulga is incomplete. People are trashing him a little bit in the chat. I don't think you saw enough to get any real
I
impression
love
here.
the first game reactions to Summer League.
It's so it's that it's Ugo.
Why are people
and that,
why are people trashing Max Struggle? What did he do wrong?
they thought he just looked tentative and overwhelmed and slow and not ready for the moment. I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine. He was fine. But as I said, the three headlines are Ugo, Bassey, and Shireman for today. And we're going to get to Bassey and Shireman in just a bit. But first off, we do want to tell you about our pals over at Prize Picks. And again, make sure you check out Prize Picks, the number one daily fantasy sports app in North America. Pick more, pick less. You see it. It's that easy. Cross sports. You can do women's basketball and baseball. You can get into whatever it is that you want to get into. And certainly you want to be logged in, locked and loaded for when football season begins. And you see it on the screen here. Play 5, get 50 instantly when you use the code CLNS. Pick more or less, win up to 2,000 times your cash. Once again, use the code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 in your account instantly when you use that code CLNS. And in addition to that, there's a lot of terrific promos throughout the week. Taco Tuesdays, you get discounted players. Freaky Friday, you get free squares all the time where they're basically just giving you one. For example, you'll get a women's basketball player at a more than 0.5 points. That's a gimme. You insert that into your lineups. That much easier to win your cash here. So again, pick more, pick less on Prize Picks. Download the app, code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly when you subscribe today. All right, back to it, and let's go to Bassey. Let's go to our boy Bassey here. Again, they're talking about him. Did anybody know he was on the roster before the game began? Because the announcers didn't. I didn't know if you guys were tipped off.
No one knew. And that's the funniest part. We didn't even think about that, Noah, is that the announcers would be like, whoa, who is this guy?
They were like, wait a second. And they're like, this happens sometimes and this and that. But this is a person who, by all accounts, should probably be somewhere and is not, and is just kind of displaced. And, you're talking about someone, again, we're not talking about a world beater, but someone who's played, some NBA games and some NBA minutes, and is just a man without country right now. Most recently with the San Antonio Spurs, and again, not playing much, about 10 minutes a game. Each of the last 2 seasons had peaked at 14 minutes a game in the 22-23. But again, 10 minutes a game on a bottom feeding team that's in the lottery you understand why someone like that might be looking for a home every year. And that's where he is now. But you're talking about the Celtics and their position of need. And boy, do they need bigs. And then this guy comes in here and just lights it up, looks phenomenal. It's hard to not be a little excited because you do need something here. And you really don't have a lot. We also have, before we get into the conversation, we're going to hear on the coach, Reynolds here, talking about Bassey and his contributions in this game.
Roster, we came in and gave you a double-double. What was the process of getting him here?
Yeah, so we found out he was going to join the team shortly before we got started with day one, and he did not participate in the live portion of day one, but he came in day two. Again, as we talked about earlier, terminology and concepts, he was behind in that regard, but it was just clear that that guy can make an impact in a game, and you saw that throughout the course of the game today, and I think he was huge for us.
And there it is. They didn't even know, and there he is, and he plays. Your thoughts, guys?
So I'm familiar with him. I remember watching him with Philly, a little bit with San Antonio, who had him on a 2-way. Always liked what he did in limited minutes. I didn't know how hurt he was the last couple of years here. It looks like he tore his patellar tendon in 2023, which ended that year, and then he tore his ACL early the next year. So the 2 of the previous 3 seasons were pretty injury-riddled on his part. So maybe that's a reason he's floating around a little bit here, because he was on the Sixers when they had opportunities with Embiid down and, some other injuries and stuff to play some other centers, and he would give them a little something in those minutes. The rebounding numbers, I love the per 36, John, but the raw rebounding numbers for him across all his NBA seasons right now, as you saw right there, pretty good. Like 4 or 5 a game in 11 minutes, which is like 13 per 36. And he obviously showed with 11 here, an extended run, not even extended run, 18 minutes, 11 rebounds is ridiculous. So that was what impressed me most. Super active on the boards, particularly the offensive glass, which is a skill set they love. and his defensive activity was excellent. We were sitting right in front of the basket for a lot of that first half when he was playing a bunch of his minutes, and he just kept altering shots, kept being in the right position, a couple physical plays inside, went down on his knee hard at one point, Noah pointed out, and kept playing through it and looked pretty good the rest of the game. So I'm excited about this guy. I don't know what happened here because we were at practice the other day and I saw him on the floor and was like, who is that? And we never really circled back to it. And then this, before this game, Jack was like, that's Charles Bassey. And people were asking me over the last couple of games about Bassey. I was like, what are people talking about Bassey for? And I guess it's because he was actually on the team and they saw him and they never announced that they signed him. So a pretty weird way for him to join this team, especially for a guy who is an NBA player. And that's what stood out to me in this game, though, is that some guys look like they belong in Summer League. Some guys look like they don't belong in Summer League. And there's a guy who looked like he didn't belong in Summer League. He was pretty level above everybody else out there.
And it makes sense because he was drafted in 2021. And that's it's a massive difference between some of the guys that are in their first or second experience here. And as I was watching him play, I was like, sign him right now because somebody's going to sign him by the end of the day. And I think the catch, if there is a catch with him, is the injury history. As you mentioned, like you can literally just Google Charles Bassey injury and you can read a lot of articles about a lot of things that have happened to him over the last few years, especially knee injuries. And that's the catch, I would imagine. That's probably why he doesn't have a spot right now, because that is a tough thing to battle, being a big that is prone to injuries. And I don't know a lot about him, so I don't know if he has something that is ongoing or if he's just had a lot of bad luck. But just looking at his games play total and talking briefly to some Spurs reporters that covered him last year, like that seems to be the question mark. So clearly from a skill standpoint, he's above a lot of the other bigs that you're seeing here. I mean, he clearly looks a lot more ready than Amari Williams does right now, which makes sense. It's Amari Williams' first taste of the NBA right now. So I think I would imagine the injury question is something that needs to be kind of explored to see if there's a spot for him here or elsewhere, if that's been a reservation for him from other teams.
Well, I'll ask you guys. Let's do what we do best and overreact to things. Like, okay, with this stuff, you might say, all right, let's see how he is next game. Let's see how this goes. Let's weigh our options. Let's get another look. There's always risk involved with that because someone else might be like, nah, I like this guy, sign him, done. And it's over. These people can be snatched up and grabbed by anyone at any point in time. It's just a matter of, I'm going to offer you a contract. The Celtics don't have two-way contracts, right? If you're going to bring a Charles Bassey on here, you got to move somebody.
You can interchange those. Yeah. I don't know if he's eligible for a two-way. I got to double check that.
Or you got to sign him outright. So again, what is the path here? Are you at a point where you can say, I want to sign this guy, and what can you sign him for at this point? How do you even get him on the team without doing something else here? Even if he did find something that you like, the Celtics right now, after you made the Garza move and, you've put yourself back and Minot here, you put yourself back over the second apron by just a hair. So you can't it's not just moving stuff around. You gotta, you got to spend a little bit to add him here and possibly give him either drop a two-way guy completely and see if you offer him a two-way if he's eligible, or just sign him outright. So is it even realistic? Is it even realistic that he could stick around?
I agree with Noah. You sign him outright, and you can have 21 players during the offseason. Yeah, I do it for sure, and especially because he's played NBA minutes.
I didn't know much about him 3 hours ago, so I don't want to jump the gun on him because of a good performance, but I liked what I saw, and that's a position they need to bolster their front court. Like even like JD Davison right now, he's on a non-guaranteed contract for next season. If you look at what they have going in the backcourt versus the front court, I think the front court is what they need to prioritize right now. So
the chat's saying we have two ways open. Both the second round picks are two
so
ways.
They haven't been officially signed
Norris,
yet.
But right.
They haven't officially signed yet. So I think it's been reported. It's been reported
the assumption is yes.
Yeah, but
I just want to clarify because people are saying they have two open. They do, but you're not going to draft two guys in the second round and
you would
and
typically
just
promise that, yeah.
Drop them outright. Most likely, those are going to those two guys. So it's not done.
You
but
can interchange those
likely.
very easily at any time, though. I don't think he's eligible for a two-way. He's been in the league for 4 years at this point.
Okay, got it.
So,
but as Bobby mentioned, you can have more than 15 players on your regular season roster in the offseason. So there is some flexibility as far as time to just figure out what they need to do. or what they want to do. But I don't know if he came here because his agent, they're doing him a favor and he actually is trying out for somewhere else. Like there's a lot of backstory here that we haven't been able to put together the reporting on the fly. Because again, we didn't know he was going to be on this team up until a couple hours ago. But I think certainly like we've talked at length about how the front court is a massive open question. So to me, even if there's some questions around him and around his, durability and knee injuries, like this is the year where it's worth taking that risk and it's worth, and I know he had some good moments when Wemby went down last year, just from briefly talking to some Spurs reporters that like he did really kind of establish himself there. So he's largely viewed by people as an NBA player, as an NBA big, and you saw that. And the question is whether there's some longer term plans here in Boston or not. And I don't think we were able to gauge that yet.
Now I know people are putting it in the chat here. It's very possible I called him Brandon Bassey, or someone
Brandon
else
Bassey,
did.
the evolution.
I'll tell you this right now. Whether I said it, now that it's in my head, I'm going to call him Brandon Bassey up until he's no longer a thing.
There is some
Charles Bassey.
Abigail parallels here.
Yeah. Kevin Jelly.
Charles
But so again, it's interesting, but I wonder how quickly you have to move on something like this. This might be the kind like, is it possible the Celtics go huddle up in their office and be like, let's do this thing. Let's sign this dude.
It's interesting because we, I'm trying to put this together in my head on the tax stuff. And Noah and I were talking about this earlier because I ran to Bobby Marks today, and it's just he's the cap guy, right? Like he knows front offices, he knows how the league works, he knows all that stuff. So I'm asking him, I'm like, is it the tax or is it the second apron? And he thinks it's the second apron. And I think he's been saying that too, like that teams are terrified of the restrictions. And that's not how I feel. I don't think that's how Noah feels necessarily. But if that is how the Celtics feel, and I think he's pretty connected to front offices around the league, they don't have to worry about the tax too much here. And that is what I'm thinking with a move like this, right? Because they have 15 players. Noah mentioned it. JD's non-guaranteed, so they have 14 effectively. If you sign a 15th guy to a guarantee, even at the minimum, you're committing to this payroll unless you can start shutting it down in some other ways. So I think that's still the question we have to ask with this roster is like, are they going to pay 40, 50, 60? Right now it's 80 million in tax. And if you do have 15 guys at their salaries right now, it's 86 million tax, which isn't a massive amount compared to what they were entering this offseason with. But we've seen them not have 15 players throughout the course of a year because it's a less tax hit, and sign guys on the last day of the year because it's the cheapest way to have a full roster at the end of the year. So that's stuff that they do. If they signed a guy like this, they'd be committing the 15 guaranteed salaries throughout the year. So that's the thing. Someone else has to go, right?
That's if Davison also is one of them, Bobby.
Well, you can waive Davison and bring this guy in, and then you have 15 guaranteed salaries. Right now they have 14, and Davison's completely non-guaranteed. So you have 14 players effectively right now. Yeah. And there's some partial guarantees too. Kate is partial guarantee. Walsh, who we should talk a little bit about later, has a $200,000 guarantee. Yep. So there's a couple. They have a little flexibility here, but how do you feel about that, Noah, in terms of like the tax, where they're at roster-wise? JD, he's not even here, so I think that says a lot. Where are you at on whether the roster is going to be going forward this offseason?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, like I do think there's more moves coming, but it's interesting to me. Like I'll defer to Bobby Marks on this one. Like he's the salary cap guy who was in the front office, not me. So it's just interesting because when you, as a layman person, as a media member, like just looking at the restrictions, they don't seem as stifling as the way that people in front offices clearly view them. And Brad kind of hinted at that on draft night when he said, it's almost when you're actually in that spot and you're actually like, you almost realize like even more than he even expected, even though obviously he was intimately familiar with them. So I'm willing to be convinced that the second apron is actually as debilitating as the Celtics front office is making it sound. I would love to have, people explain that further because it still just is not intuitive to me. But as far as JD goes, like he hasn't been around to my knowledge around the Celtics. He is on a fully non-guaranteed deal. I would imagine if an opportunity emerges elsewhere, like he probably goes elsewhere. So I don't know that I haven't gotten the sense that like there's a lot going on there as far as his long-term future in Boston. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys know, like he's somebody I've enjoyed rooting for and has had a lot of success, obviously, at the G League level. But I think that he's somebody that they would give up if they needed to sign somebody else. And if they were really on this guy, I think that they would do that.
Whoa, we had a hard hat at the game, John.
I
didn't even
know.
see it.
I'll put that up there in a minute with a couple of other super chats. No, I did want to piggyback on what you said there because I'm with you. I've thought it from the get go, and I'll continue to think it. And I don't care what people say because I believe that this isn't rise to the level of collusion, but I do believe that the owners in unison and the league in general, and probably their desire to push eventually to a hard cap are going to keep singing the same song to anyone who will listen. So the more they say it, the more people will believe it. But I don't believe it because we can see what we can see. And
So you don't buy the
understand it.
second apron stuff?
No.
I don't either.
I don't buy it because we also have eyes. I just think they're going to keep saying it because it gives them cover, and no owner wants to say that. Look, I think it's not.
Here's the explanation I got earlier.
I think it's not great, but also, what's the difference between having a pick frozen and trading it outright for a superstar? That's the same thing as
Depends on
signing.
what kind of team you are.
Well, what I'm saying is, it's the same thing as signing your own superstars. When you're OKC, if you're going to do three rookie max extensions on one team, you've got an expensive team. Yeah, maybe eventually you're going to be over that you're going to get over that second apron. But if you're winning title after title, who gives a crap? Or if you were going to trade future first round picks for a player of Chet Holmgren's level and pay him what you're going to pay him, then that pick is gone anyway. Who cares if it's frozen? It makes no sense to me. You're willing to trade them for whatever to make your team good. I'd be willing to freeze it to be able to sign the players that I want to have on my team, provided I'm okay paying them what I'm going to have to pay them. So I find it silly. And when you don't, the stacking salaries, I don't need to stack salaries in a trade. I've built a super team. I just have to pay them. So I don't care how they can shout it from a mountaintop. They're never going to convince me that that's the number one thing. Yeah,
that's how I feel too, John.
Well,
I can be convinced, but I feel the same way as you. I don't really. Well, I need someone to explain it better.
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to be a nickel over, it's not worth it. If you're going to go flying over because you've got a monster team, then it probably is because you don't need to worry about that stuff as much as others. I understand why someone would not want to just barely cross it because at that point, the penalties might not be worth just barely trading over. So staying under is fine. But if you're going to go flying past it like the Celtics did because your team is awesome, or like the Thunder are going to, you'll live with the penalties. But
here's the explanation I got, and I was fully with both of you from really the moment we learned about these penalties in terms of not thinking they're that serious. I think the thinking is you had teams before this, Golden State, Clippers, teams like that were heavy and aggressive taxpayers. Didn't care about the tax. The teams that didn't care would fly over that. What's 80 million, 100 million, 200 million? If you can pay it, there's no deterrent there. And if you're an owner that can afford it, there's no deterrent there. The deterrent with the second apron is if you go too far over it with moves that you can't reverse easily, then you're stuck. Like guys you can't get off, guys you can't move. If there's less money and destinations for money to move around the league, then you're stuck in terms of how you can adjust this roster. And when we're looking at it from the Celtics perspective, I was in favor of keeping Porzingis. What if Porzingis I know he's an expiring contract, so he's not the best example there, but with Drew, let's say you keep Drew, his game tails off completely this year. There's still 2 years left at 30 million, and you're 30 million over the second apron and can't do much. That's where it gets prohibitive. So I think that's what scares teams away is if you are in positions where you're far over that line and guys might not be super valuable.
That's fine.
That's where you have to get under.
That was a good explanation. I hear you.
No, I understand.
If you're, and like you said, John, if you're contending for championships and you're a super team and everything's great, it doesn't scare you as much. And the Cavs are an example of a team that doesn't care about it right now because they think they're in prime championship position. The Celtics aren't anymore, so they need the flexibility.
I wouldn't go anywhere near it. If I were Celtics owners right now, everyone would hate me because I'd be like, get all the way under. We're losers right now.
There's a tax. Like, let's say the second apron's like 80 million of tax, which is where the Celtics are, right? As a repeater, it's probably like 60 with no repeater. It's a deterrent to spend over 100 million in tax too, right? Like that aligns. Those two things go hand in hand.
This whole thing is a mess. I think it's ill-conceived and it's just counterintuitive right now. The NBA really has to rethink things. It's not just I do believe a lot of this stuff is trying to push towards a hard cap, but just the way everything is constructed right now, you see the money being thrown around. And again, we're getting off topic. We'll get back to the summer league stuff because we still have things to talk about. I just wanted to get this off my chest. You see the Devin Booker deal going at $72 million. Very soon, there's going to be $80 million deals. People are going to be getting basically $1 million.
There's going to be $100 million deals.
Yeah, to play in the NBA. All of this stuff, this plus the game's minimum threshold is so stupid. You're putting a threshold on people to be eligible for these types of awards to be able to gain supermax contracts. And if they don't, then the people who do make these second and third teams are going to be even lower caliber players. Now, so many teams are going to have no choice but to throw supermax deals at unworthy people because they snuck in your Julius Randles, your whatever. They snuck into a third team all NBA because they made the 65 game threshold when other better players didn't. And then every team's going to have this problem with all of these guys that they have no choice but to pay. You're telling me Chet and Jalen Williams and every other person who comes eligible, and I like both those guys a lot. Every guy who becomes eligible for a rookie extension gets the rookie max extension across the board. All of this stuff is just so dumb the way it's structured right now. You're just forcing teams to pay people because they have no other option. Then you're penalizing them for having to pay them. It's insane the way that it's set up right now. But again, it's not what we're. If you had a comment there, Noah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think Oklahoma City's hope is that by the time those Supermax extensions all kick in, there's a new CBA, because I don't think a lot of people are thrilled with the current one. So they might actually end up getting by with the situation that's currently happening. But I think you're right. I'm with you on this, John. I think this is a place where we can find some commonality on the second apron being a little bit fraudulent.
No, yeah, exactly. And Noah, stop pretending you and I don't agree about a bunch of stuff, because we do. Everybody knows it. The secret is out. We don't have to pretend we're opposed on everything. Well, we'll get into this. Jordan Walsh, we might be opposed on that. I want to get into Jordan Walsh. He had a really good
I think
game.
we should be on the same page.
Well, he had a really good game, but he's also it has to be graded on a curve here. He has to be judged to a different standard because he's a third-year player and he's in here. Granted, he didn't look good to start Summer League last year, and everybody freaked out a little bit. And we're gonna have a similar freak out over Baylor Shireman here in a minute. But the Jordan Walsh, you want to see this stuff. You want to see him be more confident. But I also, at this point, I really do believe if you're a player with Jordan Walsh's skill set and the type of player that he needs to be to earn NBA minutes, he should be able to, if not dominate, but really, really, really be able to assert his will a little bit more on this level of competition. And I thought he did fine, but I thought he was working for it still a little bit too much. I want to see him just be able to look, he can jump. He's athletic. I want to see him be able to create more separation, get to his spots, get his shots off, create in a better way. I liked it, but there's something I'm missing. Something's missing, and I can't quite put my finger on it. From Jordan, or what I'm hoping to see from him. And maybe it's just not there, but it was good, but I want a little more. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by what we saw, because I think we've seen a lot of rushed, frenetic basketball from him over the last couple of years.
And I know he's young, young. He's still young, even though he's in his third year. There's a lot of dudes older than him out there. I know that too, and I'm taking that in consideration.
So we had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and we're used to the loose, funny, goofy guy. Like, he's got a great personality, but in contrast to the Ugo stuff we were saying earlier in terms of the professional, experience, he was the opposite, where he was pretty much a high schooler coming in, and he was wide-eyed and saying, "Oh, I want to be like Brown and Tatum, I want to play next to those guys," and just like has these big expectations of what he was going to do. And I think he got far ahead of himself, probably mentally and with the way he approached Summer League last year in particular. And his preseason was good. That actually made me think he might have been able to get involved early on last year and just didn't work out that way. I still have hope for him. I liked him when they drafted him. Yeah. I think he's so long. I think he's so active defensively when he's poised and disciplined on that end. Offensively, again, I think it's a guy who you have to find a role for. And he looks good in these environments where you can be super involved. And I thought he slowed his game down, Noah. I thought he made good plays, even in the pocket. If he got stuck in there, he'd make a nice dump off pass to a guy. So he played slower and in control. The game slowed down for him, I would say, today. But
and I do want to clarify real quick, I do want to clarify. His role is not going to be Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum and create his own offense. He's going to be a 3-and-D guy in the NBA, and I think that's his only path. But I'm just saying, when you're looking at him, are you looking at a guy you think can earn?
I don't see a
25 minutes?
3-and-D guy.
Are you looking at a guy who can earn 25 minutes a game? Because that's what he might have to be this year. And so when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at like, can this be on the court for this team this year for 20 plus minutes a game? Noah?
I think that he has a pathway, and a lot of it is going to come down to the 3-point shooting, because when he hits his threes, he looks like a very serviceable guy. Yeah. And if he can't shoot, then we're talking about like, what is he really bringing on the floor, right? So he's in that weird middle ground that I think a couple of the guys in the roster are going to find themselves in, where a lot is going to hinge on whether or not they can be a 37% 3-point shooter.
Oh my God. You're saying what I don't want to hear, Noah. I don't believe in that.
He needs to hit his threes.
That's what he has to be.
NBA. It's not me. It's not Joe. It's kind of like the nature of.
That's it.
Like, it's really hard to be a guy who's not exceptional at something else and you don't shoot threes. Like you kind of have. I'm not saying he has to be elite, but he has to. He guys have to respect his shot, and I think the jury's still out. And
that's the killer with him.
Yeah.
Why did he wait?
He just turned 21 a couple months ago.
Why did he catch that one? Above the break there and pause and wait. Why?
He did a little dribble.
Why?
I hate that dribble, but he made it, right? He made it after.
Stand that. Yeah, that's what Tatum does when he's not feeling his shot.
Yeah.
And the reset dribble. No, that again, minor thing. And he made it. But why?
Yeah, I had the same thought, John. And you see, we're great and everything. No, I think the other thing I was gonna say. So I watched a lot of Jordan Walsh in the G League over the last few years, and today's game was very reminiscent of some of his strong G League showings, or like kind of average G League showings, where he's just a role guy. You're not really watching him a whole lot, but he's hitting his open threes. He has a few nice dunks in transition. He's solid. He's, making some good decisions. Physically, he can hang out, he's not a liability in any sense, but he's not, you're not really thinking about him dominating the game. And then you look at the box score and you're like, okay, he's putting together a pretty solid performance. I've seen this game from him dozens of times. Last Summer League was actually more of an aberration from what he normally is than anything else. So if you just,
it was so much worse. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying that it was not representative of how his rookie season was in the G League. It was not representative of really anything else. Like, it was just a couple of week period where he came in and he told us on the record, I'm gonna, this is my chance to show what I got. And that is the worst way that anybody can perform in Summer League, because you're still playing against great players. You're still seeing a lot of athleticism and speed and physicality, and everybody's putting it out there on the line because your career is literally on the line for a lot of these guys. And so to come in and try to dominate is a recipe for disaster for almost everybody. And I don't want to say that that's what Baylor Shireman did, because I do think Baylor missed some easy ones, but I think that we didn't get to talk to Baylor after today, but I would imagine he felt like, hey, I'm a guy that if there's somebody that shouldn't be here, it's me. Like, I'm almost ready to graduate out of Summer League. I don't, it's obviously he's only a second year, but he's 24 years old. He had some good moments in the regular season, more moments than anybody else in this roster, right? Everybody else here is not here. So I think you saw a little bit of that, like, Baylor was a little bit forcing the issue. So I don't know, maybe he just had a bad shooting game. Hard to tell, but that's where Jordan went wrong last year, was just trying to kind of show what he can do. I thought you saw a little bit of that from Baylor, and I think Baylor is going to be great next year. I'm not at all overreacting to this, but it was a little bit of a mindset thing. Like, I think he just tried
and the Baylor thing is the type of thing, and again, I think this is where we'll kind of move on to next. And again, can he pick a haircut and just stick with it? He looks like a different dude every single time I see him.
Really? I haven't even noticed that he changed his hair.
I don't know. I'm like, is that him? Yep, that's him. Every time I see him, I feel like I have to do a double take. Anyway, again, Baylor, all of these guys, Baylor, Jordan, friends of the Garden Report. We're happy. We root for their success. And again, not just because, we're invested in the team and because they, were nice enough to come on the show, but the Celtics need it. They need it at this point. They need something to happen, and they need unexpected contributions from somewhere, or they need someone to take a leap that either they could take or you don't expect them to. And I think Baylor is the one because of his varied offensive skill set and because of the fact that he's a really good playmaker and has good court vision. You kind of wonder, hey, if he puts it together, could this guy be something? And he looked awful. And again, maybe it was just simply trying to be that guy and press the issue, and the shot was flat and didn't look great. Again, this is the guy you want to see at this level. As you said, Noah, if you're good enough to graduate from Summer League, as Jordan Walsh should be or should feel that he is able to in year 3, Walsh is still young. Shireman's going to be 25, right? This year, if he's not already. He probably shouldn't be here either. He should be, hey, I earned some minutes last year. I'm ready to go. I'm a rotation guy this year. This one hurts a little bit, but I'm not going to read that much into it.
Yeah, he's another guy. It's like, what's his role going to be? Because everyone keeps comparing him to Hauser, and it drives me crazy because I don't think that's
He's
his
a totally
role.
different guy.
Yeah, he's a guy that needs rhythm, dribbles. And a nice play later in this game where he came around a screen and tossed an alley-oop to Bassey. I love his passing. I still think that's his best attribute. So I like the opportunity for him to play point guard in this summer league. His ability to create his own shot is the question, because does he create the kind of separation that's going to make him a consistent shooter? I said this to Noah during the game. I feel like he shoots differently almost every time. Sometimes I know he said going into the summer, I think he said it on the Garden Report here, that he was working on positioning his hips a more consistent way when he does pull up. It looks like sometimes he's just a little off in his form when he's shooting here, and that probably leads to some inconsistency. So he's a great shooter. He showed it in college and late last year. But the way that he plays, I don't think lends itself to creating consistently efficient looks for himself. And I think leaning into his passing is a good thing. Now, you obviously have to be a threat yourself to create passes for others. I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on mostly the rest of the way. And
but
that's
I want
a
to see
question
that
when it comes
shot.
to his fit on the roster. Yeah, because his shot's going to be his key to the minutes, to the productivity on the Celtics roster for sure.
Yeah, he's got it. That's the key, because the other stuff, you know what he can do, you know what he can't do. But that shot, he's got to figure out what it is, because it does look different for me sometimes.
And he shoots from so far sometimes too.
Yeah, I don't know. Noah, you're
half court.
Noah, you're clearly not worried.
Not worried.
Did Noah freeze?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm not worried because, again, I really don't want – I know it's part of our job and it's part of the fun of Summer League is to overreact to these small stints, but I really don't think that a lot of what we saw from him today has been a long-standing issue. It's like that kind of – I don't know how to describe it. Like that kind of – that weird like mid-range kind of almost floater step back shot that he did. Like he took like 4 of them. I'd never really seen him go for that move, and it's clearly working on something that he was trying to be aggressive. He was trying to score the ball. I would be surprised if he doesn't respond really well when he plays again on Sunday. Like I think he's gonna adjust a little bit and not press the issue. And it's human nature to be the guy that you've been at Summer League before. You had a good showing the first time around. You want to be twice as good as you were last Summer League. And it's just not sustainable because you're not playing like, yeah, someone here said no floor spacing in Summer League. Like this is not an easy environment to dominate.
It's a
depending
sloppy
on who you are.
mess.
Yeah. And Baylor was awesome in the G League last year. He consistently played awesome. He was great offensively. He did not force the issue. Look, I saw a big sample sizes. He was really good in March, right? And I know it's March NBA. It's not the perfect space. So I just don't want to freak out about it, one bad game. But to me, it did remind me a little bit, not exactly, but a little bit of Jordan last Summer League, where it's like you could tell that he came in wanting to prove a point, and instead you get the reverse. So I think he'll course correct. I don't think he'll need 5 games the way the Jordan, like I think only his last game last year, he finally put it together, but the first 4, he really struggled. So again, we can reevaluate this in a couple days. I know there's still the going question of what is his skill set? Like what is the thing that's going to bring him on the floor? And that's, I'm not 100% sure what it is. I think it's a little bit of that all around game, the playmaking, the passing, the rebounding has stood out to me. But so these guys are going to need to figure out how to score, right? Like you can't have your wings in the rotation not score.
He may need to refine his game a little bit.
That's the problem is you can't have lineups out there with 3 and 4 guys that can't score. And also, it's not like Baylor's calling card is defense. So he absolutely has to find a way to score, to make plays from others. And I'm putting this up here, not because I agree with it, not because I'm trying to troll or be negative, but the range of outcomes for Baylor Shireman is not an NBA player, is in play. An NBA contributor or maybe even borderline starter is also in play.
Yeah,
there's a wide range. hasn't proven it. There's a wide range of outcomes. I know we're bullish because really there's nothing else to grab onto right now. If you're a Celtics fan, they haven't had a first round pick in years before they drafted him. You have him and then you have Ugo this year. So you finally do have some first round picks, but very low first round picks. So these don't always pan out. So again, there's a wide range of outcomes of what happens here. Everyone's hoping for a year 2 leap. It may not be there. And it may just simply be because he's not that guy and will never be that guy. And it stinks if that's the case, because we all want to see it. Because there's
enough, what I find interesting with him,
there's enough stuff about his game that you're like, the guy can play.
Because he's a star.
Yeah.
Like he's been a star his whole life.
But can he do it here, and can he do it at this level?
What sticks out to me, Noah, with him is he's been the star in his team his whole life, right? South Dakota State, so he's playing at a lower level. He's the guy there. In Creighton, he's the guy in this, higher level team with some good players that went to March Madness and all of that. But, even back to his high school days, biggest, star from his city ever by far. He's been the star on all the teams he's played for. And the way he plays is like a star, right? Ball in his hands, creating his own shot, taking tough shots. I almost wonder if he has to refine his game a little bit to consolidate it, to make it a little more narrow, to fit into a role on this roster. And it's good that he can do those things, right? Because they're going to need some more ball handlers this year. They're going to need more guys who can create their own shot and create shots for others. So that's why I'm pretty confident in him fitting into a role this year. But is that the best role for him on an NBA team, on a team where there are better players than him? It's a question. And I'm not going to diminish his ability to do a lot of the different things that we've seen him do at different points in his career. But you always come down to that question now, right? We say it every year. Everybody in the draft's the star in all the teams they've been on in their lives. And now, are you that player on your NBA team? And even on this team that's lost a lot of talent and, Tatum's down and all that, I still don't think he's a guy who's going to be running sets, who's going to be playing pick and rolls, who's going to be doing all the stuff that he's done throughout his life. So consolidating his game a little bit, making it a little more narrow. Like we've talked even in Maine, Noah, you've seen him a lot in Maine. What did this guy look like? What kind of role was he playing? What worked for him up there? Because I think that's what he has to get to with the Boston Celtics.
Noah frozen? Noah, can you not unmute? It's okay.
She can't unmute.
That's weird. All right, Noah, when you figure it out, we can jump in there on the Baylor stuff, and we can always circle back.
How do you feel about that, John? Is that the issue potentially with him? Because that's like the theory I'm starting to develop. Is like he's been a star and done everything.
But I mean, so many of these guys. Max Shulga's a star. I mean, it's again, like this is a guy who's conference player of the year. All of these guys, so many of these guys.
Oh, but I'm saying his role, ball in your hands a ton.
But that's
a
lot. That's a lot of people, who get drafted. These good college players who get, who are a little bit older, who get drafted later, and it usually has to do with their, kind of limited athletic ceiling, and can they be a star at that level? And the answer is oftentimes no. They have to have a little special something. Shireman shows flashes of it, which is why I think we have some hope. But Noah, you unmuted yourself.
Yes, I'm back.
Muted yourself again. Okay, good.
Well, because I have to say I'm muted if Bobby's talking, but I don't know why this keeps happening. I apologize.
Yeah, it's all good.
But I think, again, I don't want to be a broken record, but Shireman is, again, one of those guys where if he can become a 40% three-point shooter, which I think is in play based on the shooting that he came in with, then that's what it is. He's a 40% three-point shooter, a lot more versatile than a lot of other guys that are straight up catch and shoot threes. Like there are things that he can do that Sam Hauser can't do. But Sam Hauser, obviously the 3-point shot is not a question. It's as much of a sure thing as any role player in the NBA. So that's why, like, you have a few of these guys, there's almost no chance they're all going to pan out. Like Jordan, Ugo, Baylor, I don't see a world where all three of those guys become rotation players. It's just, unless you get really lucky, and I hope, I root for all of them individually, so that would be awesome. But it's a question of just who can find it. And Baylor has an advantage in the shooting department based on what we've seen already. And obviously his college numbers, like that is who he has been. I think Ugo already seems to have a defensive advantage. Is that dramatic to say that Ugo seems to have the defensive edge from the three?
No, because again, it's, when I know
right?
Bobby was using the term gadget player. I've said this all along. Your bench players, Bobby and I have had this kind of debate on and off for years when we're talking about whether the Celtics can sign a guy and they're like, well, he can't defend or he can't do that. I'm like, if they could do all of these things, they'd be making $35 to $50 million and be starting. Like what I want out of bench players is not somebody I would rather I don't want the jack of all trades, master of none, who does everything that the starters can do, but worse across the board. I sometimes want the elite skill set. I will take a person who just shoots the lights out, like a Sam Hauser, or I will take someone who's an absolute defensive menace.
But Hauser became a defensive player. You got to round out your game to some degree.
Hauser became serviceable, and that's like a lot of other people. In order to stay on the court, you have to be able to defend your position at least at a serviceable level, so you're not picked on every time down the floor. You have to be able to make free throws, and you got to be able to shoot the ball. Like otherwise you're going to get played off the floor, or you're just not going to be able to stick for long, because eventually the thing that you can't do is going to be the only thing that sticks out, and what you can do isn't going to matter so much. So for these guys, these bench guys who are coming in here and who are offensive-minded players like Baylor Shireman, and his calling card is offense, Noah's 100% right. He doesn't knock down his shots at a really solid clip. All of a sudden, all of the things he does aren't nearly as valuable because he's just a worse player than the guys who, play the majority of minutes, but you got no choice but to play him a bunch. So we've been going an hour plus on a summer league game. I know Bobby and Noah have other work to do, but possibly one of the most interesting and polarizing aspects of this game was the play of Kenneth Lofton Jr., the Chinese, the Shanghai sensation, tore up the CBA last year, 25 points a game, 12 rebounds, comes in here. And man, I've never seen so many people react in so many different ways to something that isn't going to matter at all in a week to Celtics fans. But you went from a range of, I can't watch this guy, to we should sign this guy outright, and let's sign this guy and cut Tillman. But holy crap, give me your snapshot reaction to Kenneth Lofton tonight.
So the thing with Kenneth Lofton is that he is a scorer. He has shown that he can score in the NBA. It's the other stuff that is more of a question. I think defensively in particular, he's 6'5", and he's a post player. Like, that's kind of unheard of to try to make it in the NBA with that. So he stuck around a bit. He had I think a 42-point game towards the end of the season that everybody remembers. And then he was the MVP in China last year. Obviously a very different league. But to me, I just didn't really see, he was just doing something so different from what everybody else was doing that it was almost like a little bit of a distraction. I was like, let's keep doing the thing with the players that are actually going to be on the roster next year. And then it's the Kenneth Lofton dump downs. I was just I guess it's for him. He's showcasing his skills. And I don't see a pathway for him in Boston at all. I would be really shocked if he is somebody that plays for the Maine Celtics or plays in Boston ultimately, or is vying for a two-way. That's not the sense that I get. But hey, you fill your roster with guys and you got to give them opportunities. And he tried to make the most of his, but the thing that he's advertised as being as a pure scorer, he really wasn't able to do tonight. I think he got a little unlucky. He was super frustrated. We had a good advantage of him and some of his misses. But it was funny because going through, it was the most polar views. People were I was
unbelievable.
We're watching two different guys. It was really funny to watch.
It's but Kenneth Lofton and players of his ilk are what kill me about Summer League. It makes it so hard to watch because I don't want him touching the ball. I don't want him scoring. I don't want him doing well. I don't want him eating minutes. I don't want him being a black hole, getting the ball and never giving it back. I want to see the guys who might actually make an impact on the roster this year or in years to come to do stuff, because I want to see what they can do. Every single time the ball goes into a player like that, I'm like, oh my God, because you get so many of these Summer League warriors who it's this is my own, they're auditioning. It's my only shot.
It's so not fun to watch.
God bless them. That's what they got to do. They're trying to get paid. But oh my God, we're here to see 4 guys. And anytime anybody else does anything, it's click. So it was tough because he was really involved in the action tonight.
Yeah, and they had him at point a lot, which is interesting. And to Noah's point, I think Matt got asked about yesterday. You got your players who are on the roster that you're trying to develop and get some touches and reps for, and then you got other invite guys who you do want to get opportunities, but are probably secondary to that. And his involvement, the amount of minutes he played in this game, the amount of ball time he had, and shots certainly here too. I mean, they gave those to him, right? So they either want to get a look at him and see what he looked like and give him that opportunity to prove himself, or maybe they do believe in him actually going to training camp or something. And I think there are certain guys on these rosters sometimes who you think, all right, this guy has a pathway to training camp at the very least. And, that's part of your picture potentially, but yeah, as far as the active roster goes and to start this year, it doesn't look like a guy who fits what they're trying to do at any position, really. So you're going to have fun watching him here. I'm sure he's going to have a big game with the amount of usage he had here if they do that again.
Oh, my God. Please, no. Go ahead, Noah.
I was excited. He was on the roster because he's such a skilled post player. And like me and Bobby were talking about this during the game, but like I always root for undersized players because it sucks that the NBA is a game that you have to be 7 feet tall to be a big.
You're
and
big
you have
on
to be
Isaiah
6'6".
Wong today.
Like it's just a bummer because there's guys that have the skill set and it's just not the league for them. And those are the guys that go overseas and we never get to see them play. So I do wish there was more range. Like you could be 5'9", and if you're incredibly skilled, you can make it. And that's just not really the reality of the NBA today. So I was rooting for him. I think he just had a tough shooting game. I think he's going to have probably some big offensive performances throughout the summer league. But it's just at his size and his ability to defend is still a question mark. And just, I don't really see a world where that plays out.
Yep. We're going to wrap it up here. I want to get to a couple of super chats first. Before we do, first one, we're winning the chip based on what I saw. Tell me otherwise. Roland, I love it. I love the energy. Bring it. Jake Wamala, what's up, guys? I wore the hard hat to the game. Hells yeah, Jake.
I didn't see that. I wish I did. Bring it out for the next one if you're there. Yeah.
Selfie and send it to us next time, please. Anybody who does that. And Jake, once again, Summer League and open workout, unlimited fouls. I loved Walsh's maturation, Kenny Lofton's aggression. Thank you again.
You do get 10 fouls in Summer League. That's my favorite rule.
It's so bad. Don't do that. I don't want that. We did talk about at the top of the show, Hugo Gonzalez making his Summer League debut. It was a question of whether or not he was going to play at all when the Celtics drafted him, which would have been a real bummer to not be able to get to see your first-round draft pick in action. We did, and I do feel, as we talked about earlier, we got the full Hugo experience in terms of everything that we'd heard about him, the energy, the poise, the maturation, even for a 19-year-old guy. Here's Hugo and his coach talking about his Summer League Celtics debut.
Hugo and the whole team were just, pressuring relentlessly the whole game. That's what we asked them to do. And I think he ended up on the ball handlers a lot, particularly down the stretch. You could see that he was kind of wearing it a little bit. But that was an excellent tone that he and our backcourt set throughout the course of the game. And then, you could just tell that he was developing a bit of a feel for the way they were guarding, the way that our team, needed to play. And I thought that he created some advantages, whether that we didn't capitalize on. He might have just had a tough roll around the rim or a kick out that we missed, but I thought he was really composed down the stretch. Yeah, for the Summer League team, I'd say what you saw tonight or this afternoon is exactly what we're looking for him to do. Pressure the ball, space the floor, be ready to shoot, handle the ball, make plays for others, attack the basket. Again, I thought his aggression, attacking the paint was excellent, and some plays he finished, some plays he didn't, and I think that's going to kind of even out going forward.
It was hard to catch up with the pace and everything. When I was in Europe, the game is a lot of times a little bit slower. We're trying to have that possession until the end. Here, if you got a shot, you better take it. So that's actually making the game really up and down, and you gotta catch up with that if you want to play. So I'm just trying to adapt. I'm just trying to adapt as soon as I can. So as I said before, contribute to the team.
You've played in big games for Real Madrid, but were you nervous? What was your emotions like before the game?
Not nervous at all. As you said before, I'm lucky that I got the more or less experience of playing in a really, really hot courts in Europe, and I think that I played a great role on my side. But obviously, when it's your first game and everything, you are a little bit nervous, As soon as you go on the first play and you grab a rebound and you make the basket, all nerves goes out. Then you get on defense and everything. So I think that nerves are there until you start playing and you figure out that it's the same sport.
It seemed like during the game, Matt was kind of telling you there's plenty of game left, like when you had a couple misses early on. What were those conversations throughout the game like with him and just the coaching staff in general?
They were just saying, you said that we got a lot of game to play still. I got to get my head up, and even though I was missing free throws that I said, I'm not allowing myself to do that again, but that's a thing that happens in the game too. But they were just giving me confidence again for my own ball game and everything, getting stacked in defense so I can get steals, deflections and everything, just giving me confidence for the rest of the game.
I like him. I want to keep him.
Yeah, it's
can we keep him?
Exciting story.
I like him. I do like his poise. And, I wasn't there interviewing him, but he definitely seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. So again, thumbs up for Ugo. Not a bad debut for Amari Baylor. Hope he gets it again. I will say, I did notice Ugo definitely looked like he tweaked his ankle a teeny bit on one possession there.
Took a couple hard spells.
Ended up returning to the play. Was a teeny bit slowed. I'm actually surprised he stayed in the game, and he did. I wouldn't be shocked if there was this thing stiffened up or swelled up a little bit, and maybe he sits out. So we'll see if we see him in the next game or not. But the Celtics are back coming up later on. What is it? Sunday is the next game, right?
At 5:30.
Sunday. So before we wrap, two quick shouts out. Number one, shout out to our sponsor over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the promo code CLNS. New users, play 5, get 50 instantly in your account when you play Prize Picks. Pick more or less on at least on 2 or more players to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Once again, download the app, promo code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. And also Summer League stuff. It doesn't end here. You saw us on the Garden Report, but you can go check out everything on our YouTube page here. We'll have all of our interviews. Bobby and Noah are doing work on the game days, on off days. They'll be doing different segments and topical segments as we're talking about things going on. What happened? I don't want that. I want that. So check it out.
You got some good stuff coming out the next few days.
All of the interviews on our page. Bobby's got a really good podcast. You can also obviously catch Noah's podcast. You got Boston on there too. You see Sherrod, you see Cedric. Cedric and I just dropped one. It was actually pretty funny. Some good Celtics talk, and including our top 5 Celtics and possibly some blasphemy thrown in there too. So if you want to get in,
you're gonna love this. We got Kevin O'Connor coming out tonight. Our episode with him. I think he shifted Noah on the tank stuff a little bit, just describing the process and how this
you'll all
get
get there. You'll all get there.
I don't think he shifted me. Also, that episode is already out, but I think he just made me realize that I'm going to be really annoying if I keep doing the anti-tank thing. So I made a commitment to stop when the season starts, but there's 3 months left that I can do it. So.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the right word, but it might end up being where it's going.
Ahmed said the full episode comes out tomorrow. He dropped a small portion earlier today, so
my bad,
check that all out. That's okay. You were both kind of right. But the full episode drops tomorrow. But Bobby and Noah, as you saw, will be in Vegas. Noah's taking residence there. Bobby's going to be for a little shorter time, but we will have coverage.
I bought groceries today. I'm settling in.
I love that. I love those trips. I miss those. When I used to cover spring training every year, sometimes for upwards of 2 weeks. And I would just check in. And the first day I would go to a Publix and just get all my groceries and just lay it out and just, hey, this is where I live now. So Noah's in it for the long haul. Bobby's going to be there for several days as well. So we'll have you covered through all of the Celtics game action and all the stuff in between. Maybe we get a chance to talk to Brad. Maybe Bill pops down there. Who knows? There's always other interesting people playing around. I know we saw Garza and Minot there at the game. So we might catch up with some of the newer Celtics as well. So tons of content on CLNS. I will say to Bobby and Noah, guys, you see this? This is what I want you to look like when you get back. Okay. This color. Okay, let's work on it. Okay,
I have 4 layers of sunscreen on right now, John. I'm on the anti-tan wave.
It's as Jimmy once said to Bobby, going down to Miami, he's like, "You better be lathering cream cheese all over your face."
Yeah, I got it. I haven't been outside too much. I've avoided the heat so far.
Yeah, this is just me and my day to day. I haven't even gone on vacation yet. I'm going on vacation next week, so sadly I won't be on. This is literally, I get tan through the car like this, but it's all good. But anyway, have fun out there, guys. Thank you all for joining and watching. Quite a really good audience and crowd. Spirited discussion in the chat. We always like that for a Celtics Summer League game, which is great. Celtics win this first one against Memphis. Game 2 is on Sunday. There will be a Garden Report. It'll probably just be Bobby and Noah, though we might be able to get Jimmy to jump in there as well. So again, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you as soon as I can find the outro. Ahmet, you want to press it? Just press it. Press it. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way? Let's fly Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke